Hello, and welcome to another episode of eBay Scavengers. I'm Mikey, and with me today is everyone.
Hey!
Yay!
This is Wendy, Jay, Ryan, and Mikey today, and we are going to talk about 5 months of running this podcast together. We're going to start with the first half of the show being a look back, and the second half of the show we'll talk about some ideas we have for future episodes.
Yep. Yeah, I think this is cool. I think this is the first time we've all been on the podcast at the same time, just to kind of, I don't know, like...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
40 episodes.
Yeah.
We haven't even...
I'll start just by saying that I think for us, I like the way we've kind of kept it real simple and kept the podcast kind of short, because we've been able to, I think, comfortably keep it within our schedule without it feeling like a real pain in the ass. Like, I don't get sad when it has to happen because I'm like, oh no, I got to do that thing.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just kind of having fun conversations, so it's easy.
Yeah, well, I have to listen to every podcast, so it's, and we all do, so whether it's what's happening in your store this week or the topic for the next podcast, it's nice that they're 20 to 30 minutes at the most, because you can listen to all these other episodes and keep up with things without feeling like, 2 hours of podcast to listen to every week.
Yeah, and also I think what's funny, it's kind of the opposite thing. A lot of listeners say, I listened to every episode over, one weekend. I wish you had more. But I don't want to make them, like you said, 2 hours long.
I suppose when we started this podcast that we were kind of just putting out a formula, like have some items in your, start an eBay store, list 500 items, include international shipping. And I think a lot of people have sort of appreciated that we had this simple formula that was put forward that they could just kind of follow, although we still get the same kind of questions. How do I sell more stuff? It's like, well, you got to list more stuff. But I feel like this podcast has sort of set the bar for what it is to be an eBayer. Because now we look at other people who sell or that we run into at yard sales and we're like, they're not really eBayers because they only keep up, 2 items at a time. You guys have a feeling about that?
I totally agree. I know when we all started, I was trying to search for a formula, and I would find these podcasts online or these sites, and I don't know, they had all these marketing strategies, but you had to pay $100 to get the strategies. And I just think we just came up with that kind of simple way. It's just like, you got a list, got to make things look good, and just keep doing that. And
well, I think also we just really just tell people what's worked for us. I mean, people can tweak the formula however they want, but we're just like, this is what's worked for us, and I've been able to make this my full-time job using this method, and that's that. It's as simple as that. And I think what people don't like to hear is like, how do I make money on my, 50 items, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, you just have to put the work in. Like, there's no mystery to it. You're not like, will I find the holy grail that I can sell? It's like, no, just put the work in.
One thought I have about something that I think I've seen by doing it is this is a sort of loner's job, and we kind of often feel like we're in isolation being eBay scavengers and having eBay stores. It's like something you do in the dark with your laptop, And like everything else, it seems to really benefit from being made into a communal conversation, not just for, I go through that, that sort of connection through shared experience, but certainly in terms of sharing knowledge. And I think we're just learning from the people who listen, as well as providing data and information, and that seems like one of the strengths that I'd like to see grow, more interplay between us and the world, so we're really a vessel for conversations.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that has surprised me the most, is that we get people commenting and emailing about their own experiences or with questions. It really, especially like when we talk to those people in Australia, it's just it's interesting. It's like we all kind of have the same ideas and the same ways of going about it, but now at least we can talk about it and come together.
I think it's been a natural progression to start interviewing, and it's part of that same thing of the dialogue is greater than the four of us. So that seems like something that really is working and can continue to work and get more sophisticated.
I think also it's great to interview people because they always have different ideas of what works for them. And for me, like Ben, when you interviewed him last week, it was really cool because he was saying he is just focusing on a certain way of doing things. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try that now too. I'll do an experiment on bigger items and see if I can make a chunk of my monthly income on one or two items. And, you kind of like change the way you do things once you have successes that people have told you about. So that always helps me, kind of change the way I do business as I go along.
Yeah, the last interview, it helped me to hear, Ben, how he was focused on estate sales for the higher end, but it also helped me to really hear him say how he handles the people running the estate sales, because I would walk into a estate sale and see the prices and be like, we're not buying anything.
Right.
And it helped that he says, take the time to try to chat them up and see, what you can work out with them and make your pile and really negotiate with them, because I'm usually stuck at estate sales talking to the wrong person. I'm talking to someone who doesn't make the decisions on pricing, and it doesn't matter how big a pile you got, they're not allowed to make any calls on, making you a deal.
So with sticking with, what this podcast, why we do it and what I think it's done for us. I know for me, it's been very helpful talking about our process. I think it's very easy. We can get lost in our process and, a listing and taking pictures and buying, and it just starts to become a big mess. And the fact that we've had to kind of verbalize it and kind of talk to other people about it, it's really helping us hone what we do. And we feel like we're becoming a lot more efficient now, which I like a lot,
Right.
Yeah, I feel like every episode I listen to, I pick up just a little tidbit that I can use for future listing or shipping or something else. Like Ryan and I have done episodes where we're both like expert shippers, and we both walk away with like useful information just from talking together for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think getting other people's perspectives can really change the way you do things in general, but also like run your business. I mean, someone can just drop like a little hint of knowledge and you're like, wow, I didn't even know I could do, like some people are like, I didn't even know I could print labels on eBay. I'm like, oh my God, like my whole business revolves around that, like, so it's great to talk to other people for sure.
And it's a changing landscape. eBay changes, policy changes, the world changes, USPS changes, like everything is changing. So I feel like there's going to be continued value in reporting on all that and how it affects our business.
All right, so in terms of keeping up with things, I really like how this podcast comes in an audio form that you can just listen to, absorb the information while you're driving or working on, maybe while you're listing more eBay stuff. But I've noticed that we had a mailing list where we were chit-chatting all the time with our friends and talking about eBay things, but it's kind of hard to absorb that information in the same way. If someone gives you 5 paragraphs of some trick to print out international postage or something, that's really painful to read through and follow compared to just listening to an episode that's got little stories and a human voice and people talking. So I just kind of like that the podcast has been in such an easy to digest format that we can just enjoy listening to.
Yeah, I completely agree that I think the audio format has really turned out well, and because we had talked about doing like a video thing, and I just think that would not be interesting to sit and watch like a little TV show or something. Audio.
Yeah, I like the podcast.
Audio is a way to go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about kind of like the future, and this is where we hope that people are listening to this. If you have an opinion on what we're talking about, we want you to go to the blog, ebayscavengers.com, and just leave us a comment, like let's get talking to see what other people might think about this, about what works and what doesn't work. And so these are kind of ideas of what we're thinking we could do in the future to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Okay, so I'll mention a couple ideas that I was sharing with you guys just earlier today. I'm interested in, I think the interviews have gone well and been interesting, and I'm interested in expanding our interviews so that we're reaching out to specialists, not necessarily specialists in running eBay stores, but specialists on things that have to do with our eBay stores, like identifying certain materials, identifying metals or fabrics. There might be an expert in style and previous styles or trend, and then experts or specialists in certain categories like furniture or jewelry or figurines, etc. Rock and roll memorabilia. So that would be really fun and interesting, I think.
Something else we mentioned too. It would be really fun to interview like professional buyers, like people who buy stuff for TV shows or for fashion houses or whatever. Like, what do they look for? That's always interesting to me.
And I guess set designers go in that category too, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
So Wendy was interested in having people talk about being an expert in their area.
Yeah.
So maybe having like 3 minutes in each podcast where you speak about something that you're
like Ryan and I are pretty good at packing. You're really good at shipping. We each just have our areas of expertise, and it might be nice to just have a report every time you and I are reporting. I'll include an update in my area. You'll include an update in your area.
Right. So, Ryan, you had an example when we were chatting pre-podcast about a tip that you had come up with this week. And I think that's kind of the idea, is that you'd have this little tip that you could add to each episode.
Yeah. Why don't I give my tip right now? Because I think I forgot to say it in the last podcast.
Yeah.
Put eBay's phone number in your phone on like speed dial. eBay and PayPal. That is my tip. You don't need your little like dial-in code that they give you on the website. You can just give them your zip code. That's my tip.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, because as soon as someone opens a case against you, you're going to want to talk to PayPal and eBay.
That's right. Call that number.
So I think Wendy had another idea where maybe every month we could do a quick, like, any updates to eBay policy or anything that eBay has sent out, because I know that can get very, like, I lose a lot of that stuff sometimes. eBay changes some policy, and it's hard to keep up with that stuff. So we could just start doing that every month.
Yeah, and that might also include USPS or other large services that we're reliant on, PayPal. One thing that comes to mind just while we're talking about it is it might become relevant to be talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, we've talked about Bitcoin a little bit on our little internal email list, and that's an interesting topic, absolutely.
Although eBay probably wouldn't want to touch that, since it's definitely a competitor to PayPal.
Right.
That's okay.
Right.
That's right.
Except if they shut down your listings for putting your Bitcoin address in. But that's a whole other podcast.
All right. Jay, do you have anything else, or Ryan, that you want to go over for future episodes, the features that we can add to them?
Well, I know that a lot of people have asked about talking about taxes and dealing with the IRS. That is I would love to do an episode on that. We need to do a little preparation on that, but I think we can handle that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's another theme that I think Wendy might have listed, is saving money. That's a good topic too. So you won't have to list as much because you're not spending as much money in your life.
Yeah.
I've been particularly interested, and this might be an area for specialists, but of people who buy off eBay to resell on eBay, where they don't even go to the yard sale or the auction. They're just looking they have alerts out for great items going up. And I've only done that once or twice, but I could see there being like a career path.
Yes, I would love to find those people. I would love to know their tips on how they find something for 99 cents, sell it for $100,
Yeah, we just recently met this guy who would buy stuff on Craigslist and eBay. He focused on prints, on artist prints, like cartoonists mainly, like the guy that did Snoopy or Dr. Seuss.
Not prints, but originals.
Right, I mean the original stuff. And he somehow just said that it's just so wacky. People will sell that stuff for relatively cheap, and then he would take it and sell it to actual collectors. And for some reason, he says the people willing to pay a lot of money, I guess, just don't want to go on eBay. Like maybe it's too low class for them or something. They would rather buy from dealers. And so he doesn't mind scrounging around for it and sorting through it. And
But it's that same idea of they bought it in the place where anyone can buy it, but they bought it for $100 and sold it for, $60,000 to someone else. And you're like, how did you do that? And those are great questions. Like, why doesn't everyone do that?
That's the benefit of knowledge.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I think on that same note, it would be fun for us to interview a few people that are doing regular estate sales, like the people that actually run the estate sales and hear their process. And the same for people who do locker wars kind of stuff, where they're buying out storage lockers from like dead army soldiers. Like, I feel like those. Well, I laugh, but that's we've got neighbors that do explicitly only army soldiers.
And something I would love to see you report on, Ryan, as your specialty is you seem to be really good, maybe because you visit cities a lot, but at calling the trend.
Yeah.
So what's valuable at the thrift shop level that just became trendy?
Right. Yeah, it's funny when we walk around New York, like we're in New York right now, I just look at people's shoes, like, because we're staying right near NYU, like we'll just walk through like swarms of students and I'm like, what are they wearing? What are they wearing? What are they wearing? What are they wearing? Like, that's all. I'm like, what's their bag look like? What's their sweatshirt look like?
And we actually, at nighttime, we figure out what neighborhoods are doing trash pickup the next day, and we walk around at night and look. And
pick up all their expensive. We literally are trash picking in New York, and it's Jay. I am going to tell you this. Jay got in a fight with a homeless guy. He got up in this guy's face and was like, "I can trash pick too."
Yeah.
Hey, trash is out here for everyone.
I'm a scavenger too.
Wow.
But then
don't you have to be really careful with textiles in New York due to bed bugs?
We haven't pulled any textiles. I mean, we're looking for mostly like hard goods.
Yeah, and we're staying around NYU right now, so the students have just come into school.
They moved in like 2 days ago.
So it's not the best time because people are moving in, not moving out, but we're getting cool stuff,
Yeah, we find random, like, really nice pieces of luggage that they just threw away.
I got a really nice vacuum cleaner.
We got a vacuum. We are going to haul a vacuum cleaner home on the train. We are literally doing that.
Yeah. When we lived in New York, Wendy and I used to love going around NYU as the students would move in because they would bring way too much stuff. And so that luggage you're finding is because there's nowhere to put it in their little NYU apartment,
Yeah.
Yep. They're like, I brought everything in this. I don't need it. Throw it away.
And strangely enough, the only scavenger we see are the Chinese ladies who are getting all the plastic bottles and aluminum cans. We aren't really seeing scavengers getting all this other stuff.
Other than the homeless dude you got in a fight with.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, you know why, guys? It's because you need to not have a job to benefit from this.
Actually, we were talking about that, and we were thinking, well, if we lived in New York, how would we, would we be doing this, like basically not having a job, but like trash picking and then selling it on Craigslist?
Is there enough room?
Is there enough room? It's all about storage. That's the thing. In New York, like, where would I store all this shit that I'm finding, you know?
You'd have to sell belt buckles and bolo ties.
Exactly.
Kind of wish you would have interviewed that homeless guy for our next episode.
Like, what was he getting?
I don't think he wanted to really talk to me. He was just mad I was too close to him going through the bags.
All right, I think Ryan should have recorded that.
I actually wasn't there when it happened, and Jay said, oh, if you had been there, I wouldn't have said anything to him. I just would have walked away. But I guess I wasn't there to see Jay be a badass.
We ran into two artists recently that were both using homeless people to source materials for them. One was getting homeless people to cut the leather out of car seats, the leather car seats, to cut them out at dumps and bring him the leather. And then the other was an artist using paper, the lamp guy, and he was having I forget what they were sourcing, but it's interesting. There's a whole question there of asking the homeless people who make their living putting stuff out on mats and blankets on the street, what's going on in the trash, and even saying, look for these things for me.
Yeah.
Right, and pay them for it. Yeah, because they like, actually, we saw these like homeless kids, like homeless on purpose, kids, whatever, crusty punks. But they were selling all these books, and we're like, oh, they just like found these on street corners because people throw away books all the time. But it was cool because they were just like $1 a book. That's how they're making their money.
I know. Should we just wrap this up? This is good, kind of a good touching base. This podcast seems to make sense for us, and we hope people listening will go on the blog and maybe leave some comments or help us make this something more than it is.
Go read our manifesto
and tell us what you want from us.
Right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.